Good morning. Hello. It is another Tuesday, coffee with Caroline, or tea or water. I'm actually drinking water now because it's past coffee time for me. So today, I want to share with you some of the reasons that you might not be healing, some of the emotional reasons why you might not be healing fully. When we think of healing our body, a lot of times we just think of the physical things. 2 weeks ago, I did a live where I talked about all the, not all, some of the physical reasons why you might not be healing. Last week, I touched on some of the mental reasons why you might not be healing, beliefs, thoughts, programming. And today I want to touch on the emotional reasons why you might not be healing. These are I've actually got a list, okay? I sort of brainstormed a little list and I'm just going to share them with you and, just see where it sits with you. As with everything that I do and say and write, if it doesn't resonate, keep on. It's cool. It's all right. We don't have to agree on everything. We are so touchy nowadays. But if it does resonate with you, then I invite you to sit with it, get out your journal, do whatever you need to do to dig in and see where it leads you, okay? Or not, or not, right? It's all good. If you are here live, you can say good morning, hello. If I don't see your comment, it's because I'm on my phone and Facebook is sometimes weird and I will come back, okay? If you're watching the replay, let me know. Okay, so emotional reasons. So we're emotional beings. So honestly, we're kind of like a big old bag of beliefs and a big old bag of emotions in this body having this human experience. And I believe that we are here to learn and grow. Our soul is here to learn and grow and experience so that we can, learn whatever we need to learn whatever we are choosing to learn, and growing as souls, hopefully as people, and living our best life, right? So if you've got a health issue, so you can bring it to mind. I'm going to put my notes here because I'm fiddling with them. If you have a health issue that you're struggling with, it could be anything health-wise, or weight or health and weight are kind of my jams. That's what I do. It's who I work with is women. And so you can just think about that for a second. So think about whatever health issue you've got going on, okay? So whether it's your thyroid, or maybe you've got diabetes, or maybe you've got whatever. By the way, not a doctor, do not diagnose, do not claim to cure. I provide information. It is what you do with the information that will either help or hinder you, okay? Always advocate for yourself. And again, like I said, if it doesn't resonate, keep on scrolling. Okay, so let's get to it. So some of the emotional reasons. So maybe you are struggling, living with thyroid issues, okay? So there's emotions around that. You've got thoughts around that, beliefs around that, you've got emotions around that. When I say emotions, it could be something that, well, let me just read you the list and then we'll go from there. Okay, so some of the emotional reasons you might not be healing. And it's funny that I said thyroid because this one, I think personally, goes right with thyroid issues. Your thyroid's here, it's up in here, it's a little butterfly. It has a lot of functions. It's a tiny little thyroid gland. It does a lot of things in your body physically. Notice where it is though. It is your throat chakra. So if you know anything about your throat chakra, it's not speaking up for yourself, not speaking your truth. Now, I want to just say this, okay? I am not a believer 100% that, you know how there's all those books that say, if you have this, this is what it means. So if you have hypothyroidism, this is really what it means. I think and there's a lot of people that write really good stuff, okay? But that's their experience, that's their knowledge, wisdom. You know, Louise Hay is she was a huge pioneer for that sort of thing. Says your body knows, your body's talking to you. So if you have hypothyroidism, you look it up, and then it says the reason why. Okay, I think there is some truth to all of those books. I think they're amazing. I think they're wonderful. I have a bunch of them behind me on my bookshelf. I don't look at them anymore because I believe that we are each unique. So we are each unique. Yeah, we're human, you know, male, female, whatever, anything in between. But we are unique in how we move through life, in what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And I believe also in what causes our dis-ease or disharmony and what heals us, okay? So saying that if you've got thyroid issues or you're diabetic means X, Y, or Z, I feel very strongly about this. And this is something that I've learned over the years by looking at all the books and not actually tuning in and getting the information straight from source or my guides or my body, okay, is that it might not be the exact reason. There might be a grain of truth in there, and it's certainly a jumping off point if you have no idea and you want to do a little research. But really, I would advise you, and then I'm speaking from experience, is to take it with a grain of salt, make a note of it, but always go back to your own body and ask your own body what it needs and what emotions might be trapped there, because I believe that just like your thoughts can kind of hang out in your body, your emotions, especially emotions unexpressed, subconscious, you might not even be aware of them, words not said. When people say, well, I had to bite my tongue, please don't do that, because and I know how they mean it, but words are powerful. And if you are constantly biting your tongue and not saying what you really mean in an effective way, it's not about you spouting off and going off on everybody. It's about you really speaking your truth from your heart space, hopefully, that, if you're like constantly not speaking up for yourself or not standing up for yourself or not even allowing the world to see you how you really are or what you really dream, maybe you're just going along with it because you've got self-esteem and you got some worthiness issues, which we'll get to in a minute. Just not expressing yourself fully, however that looks for you, can cause physical issues. Now, is it the only cause? Maybe, maybe not. And that's where, good morning, Jolene, that is where it's very important to go within and really get really real with yourself and your body and say, okay, so I've got this issue. What is truly going on? Now, this is something I help my clients with because sometimes it's easier to see your issue than it is to see my own issue. Like sometimes you really do need help to uncover the root cause. And I have found over the years working with people, there is always an emotional component to anything you are dealing, struggling, living with physically. Always, always, always. There's always mental stuff. There's always beliefs and programming. There's always spiritual stuff. I've said this for years and I just believe it more and more and more. You can't just treat the symptom or treat the physical issue without looking deeper. You can, but guess what? It will never fully be completely healed. You'll constantly be a cancer survivor or a this survivor or that survivor. And in the back of your mind, you might always worry. And now I'm not saying anything about cancer. And again, anytime you have anything physically you are working with, there is no blame or shame. It's all learning. But I have found, and I've seen and I've witnessed that if you don't dig deeper and get to the root cause, whatever that might be, things will come back. Things will manifest differently, okay? So there you go. Okay. So that was number one, not speaking up for yourself. Emotional reasons, being a doormat to everybody, doing everything for everybody. How many moms do you know that are like, okay, I'll join the PTA. Okay, I'll join the HOA. Okay, I'll be the Girl Scout leader. Or is that just me? Because I've done all of those things. And now I'm like, nope, not doing it anymore. So, being a people pleaser, that comes back to a lot of different things. Boundaries, not feeling worthy. Why is my lighting doing weird things? I'm not sure what's happening. I think it's the filter I have on. Honestly, in truth, it's quite simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Or maybe it's easy, but not simple. However you want to look at it. I have found that if you dig deep enough in any issue that ails you, I don't care what it is, there is always a component of lack of self-love, lack of worthiness, abandonment, not good enough. Seriously, like anything you can think of, if you dig deep enough, and you're brave enough to go there, those components will be there in some form or fashion. And when you can really allow yourself to acknowledge that and be brave enough to examine that, and then, begin to work with that, whether it's with someone or by yourself. I'm going to give you a few things you can do at the end of this. Just to get you started, we'll talk about that in a second, but it can really go a long way to pretty much anything that is going on. Now, I cannot claim that you will be completely healed. Healing is a process. It is a journey. If it took you, decades to have this disease, that disharmony, this malfunction, it's not going to just immediately overnight, poof, if I had the magic wand, I have a magic wand, but it doesn't work that fast. Okay. You gotta be real and raw and vulnerable and courageous and determined to really uncover what's going on, so that you can, so that you can begin to heal and really get your vibration and your frequency in alignment with health, okay, and alignment with harmony and well-being. And it's a multi-step process, okay? I'm not gonna just say, oh, you can just journal it out. Journaling is a very, like a starting point, okay? So I talked about not feeling worthy, loving yourself, being ashamed, feeling shame. Emotions have a vibration. And there's a scale. There's a guy who did a scale, and you can look it up. I can't remember the name of it. But it has all of these emotions listed, and there's like ones that are neutral. There's ones that are negative. There's ones that are positive, higher vibrational. Personally, I don't think any emotion is bad. We have this weird thing of like labeling things as bad or good, right or wrong. They are just opposites on this spectrum. And so this chart sort of shows you, and guilt and shame and hate are really low vibration. And then there's a scale, and like love and joy are really high vibration. Makes sense, right? Some people say you're either in fear or you're in love. And there's different types of love and there's different types of fear. We are not black and white. It is 50 Shades of Grey, y'all. 50 Shades of Grey. Okay. I didn't even read it. I haven't watched the movie, but anyway, 50 Shades of Grey. There is a huge spectrum. And so that is just something to be mindful of. If you feel guilty about things, then that is where you're going to want to start digging in. Why do I feel guilty? Oh, I don't feel worthy of their time, their attention. I feel guilty because I don't want to disappoint anyone. I don't want to make anyone wait for me. I don't feel like I'm worthy of taking a day to myself or an hour to myself. You know, all of these things they can become habits over time. They can become trauma responses. Everybody on Facebook land is talking about trauma responses now, that how you respond in your life is a trauma response from your childhood. And yeah, I agree. I mean, I think kind of everything's a trauma response nowadays. And when you are willing to look at, you know, oh, I remember when I was 3 years old and I was told that I was too loud and to be quiet, or I was told to be seen and not heard. I was told that I was too much, or I wasn't enough. I was too shy. I mean, however you want to do it, you know, all of that stuff gets stored in our subconscious mind, man, and it can mess us up. So think about, if you want, different emotions that you find. I think that, you know, we tend to sort of gravitate towards a certain emotion. Like we either go like directly to guilt, or directly to shame, or directly to anger, or sadness, or grief. You know, I will never tell anyone not to feel how you feel. If you feel something, I do invite you to sit with it and breathe through it. And because what you resist persists, and if you start to feel a certain way and it's bringing up things and you just, and you go, no, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. That's uncomfortable to look at. Then what happens to it? It goes within. You're biting your tongue. You're swallowing down your emotions. How many people do you know eat their feelings? A lot. That's another subject, but anyways. So feel the feeling, and then notice, you know, you can get your journal out if it's somewhere convenient for you to do so, or you can just breathe through it, and then you can begin to just allow it to be, and it will dissipate, okay? It will dissipate. Also, if you need assistance, please advocate for yourself, okay? I'm not saying these things to be flippant and like, just get over it. No, okay? Advocate for your health and well-being, your mental health, you know, your emotional health, your physical health. But I'm just giving you some of the emotional reasons that maybe you're not looking at that could be directly tied to the symptoms and the physical ailment itself, okay? And it's just one component. So I talked about guilt, talked about shame, past traumas from childhood, especially from like birth to like 7-8 years. You know, I talked about this last week. You're basically a little, you know, sponge, and you're just soaking in all the opinions, programming from your environment, you know, family, friends, TV, collective, all those things. And some of those things, you know, I don't know about y'all, but my childhood was, you know, a little dysfunctional. And so if I'm soaking in all of my parents' dysfunction and taking it on as my own, like this is truth because it's coming from my parents, and my parents would never lead me astray, maybe not on purpose, but they had their own issues, you know what I'm saying? And so if I'm taking that on and then I'm going into my life and I'm having these experiences and they're a direct reflection, and you know, you've got all of these feelings and feeling ignored and abandoned, you know, not worthy, too loud, too quiet, all of these different feelings, and you take those into your adulthood, and then all of your experiences are going to bring that up, and then you're living, you know, that's what people say, I think, a little bit with the trauma response is how you respond. If your first thing is to say, I'm sorry, you know, that might be something to look at. Or if your first reaction is to get mad at anything, everything, you know, people say, oh, he's a hothead. Well, is he? Or are there other things going on, you know, underneath that might need to be looked at. I always joke with my husband. I talk about like, here's a box, and I'm like, you might want to unpack that. Because I like to bring humor, because humor and laughter really can help break up energy just as much as crying can. They both have their place. I find laughter to be very joyous, raising the vibration. Tears can be very healing because you're just getting it out that way as well. A good belly laugh is amazing. Don't underestimate the power of a good belly laugh. I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay, other things. So when I talk about past traumas, it can be anything. It can be big, it can be small, it can be physical, emotional, it can be, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, but it can also be real or perceived, because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. And if and I'm not going to really get too much into this, talked about it more, I believe, last week, but if you were a child and your parents said no, but maybe you perceived it as being this really big deal, because when you're a child, everything seems like a big deal, right? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe your mom was just having a bad day and snapped at you, and then you just soaked that in. Mom hates me because she's yelling at me, but maybe she was having a bad day, but maybe mom doesn't have the emotional intelligence to be able to come back later and apologize, or something like that. And then you just store that trauma. And even if, 10 minutes later, all is well, you've still stored that. And so these things, think about all the experiences you've had, good, bad, good, bad, and the ugly. These things get stored in your body if they're not processed. That's why journaling can be really, really helpful. Not everyone loves to journal, but I'm just going to say journal and do it how you want. Some people like to speak. Cool. I have a friend who likes to do art. Cool. Movement, anything can help get these emotions to come up and come out, so that your body is not holding on to them and festering. Think about that. All right, so like I said, the traumas can be real, perceived, big, or small. Relationships bring up a lot of emotions. If we are staying in a relationship out of fear, if we are staying in a job out of fear, fear is a very heavy, dense emotion. Fear and you can unpack that. Like, you can start thinking about your fears. Like, well, why am I afraid of this? Well, if I leave this job, I won't have any money. I will be on the street. I will be homeless. No one will like me. I mean, you can really start really digging in and beginning to kind of unravel it, because sometimes the fear is bigger in our heads than it actually is. And if we can take a step back and get out of fight or flight, and you can do that very easily by just taking some deep, slow breaths and getting back into your body, and really realizing that you're not being chased by a lion, like you are safe in this now moment, then you can begin to, your thinking can be a little clearer. You can step back and have a different, perception of what's happening, and say, okay, well, my mind is telling me X, Y, Z. I'm going to live on the street. No one's going to love me. I'm going to be homeless. Or you can, and then you can begin to dissect that. It's like, well, is that really true? Maybe it's a possibility. Okay. But what else is a possibility? I could find a better job. The universe could completely support me by showing me another way, because the universe knows that my soul is dying over here and it's time to really grow and step out of my comfort zone. And, so there are ways to begin to kind of look at these emotions and say, is this really true? And you have to get out of the fight or flight to be able to do that. And again, breathing is like the best thing ever. Most people breathe up here very shallow. Most people, their adrenal glands are kind of shot because they're stressed out all the time, because they have all of these unprocessed, unhealed, unwitnessed emotions. and they're just running the show. Your subconscious mind is running your show, okay? So I talked about that. I talked about all of these. I talked about that. I've basically hit on these things. I've hit on all of them. Cool. Okay, so how do you heal and process these things so that you can heal and maybe release weight or whatever your goal is? So it's really important to be able to identify kind of what your emotional triggers are. Okay, so if you are prone to like get pissed off really easily, that's where you want to start. If someone asks you to do something like, hey Betty, can you bake 5 dozen cookies by tomorrow because we need them for our bake sale, and your body, your solar plexus, your stomach's going, oh God, but I'm so busy, I've got other things to do and I don't really want to, sure, I'll do it. That's where you start. Okay, that's where you start. If you say yes, but your body and everybody else, with everybody else, if you say yes and your body, your reaction is heck no, but you say yes anyways, that's where you need to look. Why are you saying yes? Why are you people pleasing? Why can't you say no? And begin to uncover. And you can even write, like, I don't know how to say no. This started when I was 3 years old or whatever, and begin to dig into whatever comes up for you around that. So journal around it, dig into the whole scenario, write out everything. This is where I actually like to type because I type faster than I write. Whatever works. Some people are diehard, you have to write or it's not right. I don't believe that. Hold on. Talking is thirsty work. You can really just, like I said before, sit with a feeling when it arises. So if someone comes up to you and they say they want you to do XYZ and you don't want to do it, yeah, you need to be working on your boundaries, but really sit with the feeling that comes up for you around it. And if it feels uncomfortable, that means you're on to something. Getting triggered by something, getting emotionally triggered by something is awesome. It's not comfortable, but it's awesome because it's showing you somewhere. So if someone is triggering you, if a situation is triggering you, that's giving you vital information about maybe possibly where you've got some healing within you to do. Otherwise, it wouldn't trigger you. You'd feel kind of neutral about it. So anytime you get triggered, don't give them your 2 cents worth on Facebook, okay? Allow yourself to sit with it before you do that. So often I can tell, because I read energy, I can tell when someone responds to somebody's thread and is just all fired up. They are triggered. And if they would just sit with it for a minute before they blasted them with their keyboard, they might have an opportunity to heal a little bit. They still might be upset and they want to articulate something, and that's fine. But how many posts have you seen where people go off on people and you're like, oh, I think that person might be triggered. And they're not willing or able or ready to do their own inner healing around it. They just want to be triggered all the time. There are people that just aren't happy unless they're triggered. I believe they're known as Karens. Anyways, okay, what else? Okay, so I said identify kind of what emotion is coming up. So you can also do this. So if you've got, I'll just talk about the throat or whatever. If you have some thyroid issues, maybe your thyroid is underactive. You're working with a doctor, it's underactive. You can sit down, just take some breaths, okay? Tell your human ego self that you're going to talk with your body now, or you're going to have a talk with your soul, or if you talk to guides, you're going to talk to your guides. Ask your human to have a seat over here, okay? You're not sending them away, but maybe just over here, and begin to talk to your thyroid. And you can just say, hey, thyroid, why are you underactive? And listen with your whole body, okay? You might, in your mind's eye, like in your head, you might hear something, you might get a sense of something, you might just start crying because there's an emotion there that is just needing to come out. Cool. You might get a thought, you might just get a knowing, you might see, okay? So it just depends on how you receive guidance. And begin to have, I'm burping now, begin to have a conversation with that part of your body. Be open, be curious, and try your best. And this is where our human can mess us up. Because your human and your ego, they want to figure it out. If you are spinning your wheels and trying to figure it out, you are not listening to your body. You are not listening to your soul. You are not listening to your guides, your intuition. You are listening to your human. And that is, if you find, and it's only human to do this. So if you find that you're doing this, stop and say, okay, human, I hear you. Thank you so much. I am so glad you have my back and you are watching out for me and you are trying to figure this out. But right now, I want to talk to my body. Right now, I want to speak to my eyes, my throat, my mouth, my breasts, whatever that body part that's affected by whatever's going on for you. And say, can you just give me 5 minutes to do that? Thank you so much. You don't want to be mean to your human. You want to acknowledge them as if they were a toddler. Mommy needs 5 minutes to go to the bathroom. Okay, so that's what you want to do. And then begin the journaling, the feeling, noticing, witnessing. And you can even ask that part of your body, what do you need to feel supported? What do you need today in order to feel your best? What do you need in order to fully heal? And then it's, it's something that's simple, but it's not always easy, or it's easy, but it's not always simple, however you want to do it. And begin to build that connection, because there's a disconnection. You're not listening. You haven't been listening to your body. And so it's showing symptomatically something that's going on. Cool. Okay. There's no blame. There's no shame. It is what it is. But now you are in a different place and you want to begin to heal this. So this is what you got to do to fully heal. And I'm not saying don't stop taking your meds. If you are taking meds and you're working with a doctor, cool. Do this as well as, and then, get rechecked. See how you feel, okay? It's a trial and error. You keep trying things, and then you're doing your inner work, and our inner work will have outer results if we are consistent. You can't just do it one time and think that, oh, well, I journaled that one time 5 years ago. It's a journey, and that is why people don't. It's taking radical responsibility for your health and your wellness and your well-being and your growth. And not everybody wants to do that, and that's fine. Chances are, if you're watching my video, you're at least interested a little bit. But it does take effort, and it takes courage, and it takes consistency. Okay. I think that's all. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave this here. Next week, I'm going to be talking about some of the spiritual reasons why you might not be healing physically. So we're going to dive into all that stuff. This is the stuff I find that most people think is so cool and so interesting. Today, emotions and beliefs are those are the two areas that I see most people want to bypass. I have found in the spiritual community that everybody loves getting the energy healing, and it feels so amazing. But if you're not looking at real world actions, looking at what you believe, looking at what you say and think and do and how you're feeling, if you're ignoring your feelings, I don't want to look at that, that's uncomfortable. I don't want to look at my childhood, that's uncomfortable. You will not have lasting results. You just won't. You might have temporary results, and that's amazing, celebrate it. But I have found that you have to look at all of these different aspects to truly transform and to heal from the inside out. So I'm going to leave you there. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Comment below and let me know that you saw it. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings, and I will see you next week.